That was it.
All right. Okay. Well, it sounds good.
I think Dan will probably talk like here, like he did last night.
That's what he did last night. He stood over there.
Yeah, stood over there. And,
I mean, I can see this. Is that going to be inappropriate for the people in the audience? Move over here.
Does this become a village trustee meeting? They sit up here with Dan?
I have no idea what the
no,
legalities.
we don't have, as long as we don't have a quorum of the village board here.
Yeah.
Is there?
Well, to finish what we did with Dan on Sunday, he did raise a point that I made note of, which he talked about pedestrian and bicycle lead intervals at intersections when the lights change, where everything stopped except for a period of time where bicyclists and pedestrians can cross.
Mm-hmm.
And we tested it out, and he confirmed, based on his knowledge, that no, we don't have this yet.
No.
And that would be something that I think would be very important.
There are so many ideas that I saw last night that he was giving out that would benefit our community. I mean, I hadn't expected to think that so many of his proposed solutions were going to be great.
Well, he has a lot of ideas, a lot of experience, a lot of ideas. You know, it can be incumbent on the village to kind of prioritize, because we're not going to have the resources to do everything all at once. So we
Or necessarily the authority, unfortunately.
well, that's true as well. So, you know, I think it's important to keep in mind what the village can and can't control, and look at those and work with other parties.
One of the things that the previous mayor did accomplish early on in his tenure was to get the viaducts painted.
Yeah.
That was a multi-year effort to deal with the railroad. I mean, you submit an application now, and if you hear from them this calendar year, you're doing great. So he got it, and he used the LDC, the GADC, to move the money. So that's, I think, the approach that the village is going to have to take with regards to some of the stuff on 28, is to get it. Just keep going for a long time. It's a multi-year effort.
Did he mention? Did he address the speed limit on Main Street at all? Would you like to share his thoughts on that?
Well, at the meeting last night, he was talking about posted speed versus expected speeds and target speeds. And there seemed to be general consensus at last night's meeting, even among the audience, that right now cars are going too fast on Main Street.
But isn't that an enforcement issue as well?
Well,
I'm sorry, Stacy, what?
Isn't that also an enforcement issue?
Well-
Is it necessarily the speed limit's too high? If we drop it to 25, let's say, for just argument's sake, and then are we going to enforce it at 25? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
Is it-
Yeah.
assumes,
Well,
though, that
I think that's what-
other measures implemented other than lowering the speed limit, and I think that we're looking
Other
at an
common
obvious solution. Yeah. The man is here, so I think we're going to go down and sit in the audience. Is that the?
I'm fine sitting up here.
so I'm just going to back up.
I mean, as long as we can see.
All right.
Chair's more comfortable.
In that case,
High price tickets.
we're going to invite Dan Burton to come on up and address the crowd and take control of the meeting. And it's all yours, Dan. Feel free to run the thing as you would like.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to the next generation of thinking about how traffic should behave. Your community is your community. It doesn't belong to the automobile. It belongs to you. It belongs to your children. It belongs to everyone, whoever wants to be healthy. So we put together a presentation very different from the one we did Monday night, which will also be very different from what we're going to present on Wednesday. So we want to give you a real variety, but I'm going to ask Connor to do the main presenting, and I will ad-lib from time to time. But we're here to have fun, and we hope that we can make this an enjoyable delivery. A little background on myself, for those of you who haven't worked with me in the past. I'm now 82 years old. I've been doing this type of work since I was about 26. And I've now worked in over 4,000 communities, and one of my absolute favorites is East Aurora. It really is. You guys are so far above the curve. I hope you realize that you're not just one of the best villages. In my books, you're in easily the top 2%. You've done amazing things. You are an example for other villages to follow. And I've been sharing some of your success stories to other communities across America. So with that, let's introduce Connor, who's from Boston, with Kittleson, a team we love to work with a lot. But if you go ahead and take it from here.
Everyone can hear me okay? Great. Thanks for having us. As Dan said, we're happy to be here and looking forward to another good night of interaction and learning from you all. So, what we've done with this presentation tonight, which hopefully this works great,
Turn the lights down.
is talk about how the Planning Commission in particular can influence
You're on
the
the
out.
right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But we're trying to get the lights down up here.
And this is being recorded, am I right? So this will be able to...
Thank you.
Yeah, good.
Oh, that does help, thank you. Great. So we want to talk about how, in particular, a planning commission and the work that you all do can influence the types of things that Dan's here talking about and the best practices that we're sharing from around the world that we work in. So, reminder, what we want to do is focus on bringing out the priorities and values of our community through the transportation system, and not, as Dan said, give it over to vehicles because that's the way we've been doing things for the past few decades, right? So, a reminder, for many of you probably know this, that the United States is a real outlier among our peers in how many people are killed and seriously injured on our streets. We stand out in a bad way among other developed nations. And that problem is only getting worse lately with the increasing size and mass of vehicles. We're seeing more people killed and injured on our streets at a higher rate, especially those people who are outside of a vehicle. This is happening at the same time. Oops, sorry. So we want to really hone in on these principles. We know how to design safe streets. We know what matters. Speed is the #1 factor that influences those outcomes, influences the likelihood of a crash and the severity of a crash. And so we want to be focusing in every time we make a decision. How is this going to affect the speeds on our streets? How can we lower the speed? How can we design to achieve that speed at that lower rate? And then supporting that, how can we get more people to choose to get around outside of a car? What can we do to design our community so that it's an invitation, it's a preference to walk or to bike where you want to go, rather than drive for that trip. At the same time as these trends are going in the wrong direction, the federal government, even today, is pushing for us to eliminate fatal and serious injuries on our roadways. And we will not do that by making decisions the way our industry, the transportation industry, the industry I come from, has been making decisions for the past 50 years. And so this is an acknowledgement that we need to change those priorities, and we're going to talk about some strategies on how you might achieve that. But first, I want to remind us all that the way we design our streets has a profound impact on so many aspects of our lives. And we have the opportunity, rather the responsibility, to consider those outputs when we make choices in how we design our streets. Whether we choose to make it a parking place or a driving place or a fast place, right? So one key way is public health. Dan talked last night in a great way about how much our street design influences public health. How much physical activity we get in our daily lives is a direct follows on directly from the way we design our streets. And that reduces improves health outcomes, reduces obesity, reduces cardiovascular disease, improves air quality. It also improves our mental health, right? We're seeing now, especially, we crave interaction and community, and we get that by being out of our cars and talking to people out of the street. And that is a direct response to how we design it. The way we design our street influences how our businesses work. We have the options to make street design choices that support and prop up our local businesses, or we can make choices that hurt them. And we have a responsibility to make those choices to support this community. The design of our streets influences both local and global environmental factors. Local air quality factors are a direct relation to the tailpipes driving down our streets, as well as global climate issues. And again, this all factors in how we design our streets. And then the way we design our streets influences who's allowed to use our streets. If we design only for cars, only people who can drive a car, who can afford to drive a car, are invited to use those streets. And we have a responsibility to the full community to design in an inclusive way. And all of these things taken together impact how people get around. What we call in the transportation profession, we call this mode choice. What transportation mode do people choose? And we, as the village, as decision makers, have a profound ability to influence people's mode choice. You don't have to think that cars are evil to recognize that they are the most expensive, most polluting, most dangerous, and least efficient way to move people through a community. And that every trip we can invite to walk or bike or take a bus is a net positive to our community. So we want to be able to think about all of those things at the same time as we're making decisions about what we're going to use this public space for. Unfortunately, those who are left with the responsibility to make transportation decisions don't have equations they can plug into to understand those outcomes. We have propped up this industry with a super focus on one vehicle performance measure above all others, and we let that dictate every other decision. And that is vehicle delay during the peak 15 minutes of the day. This is what the engineering profession has defined as a pass-fail test. If it fails that test, we can't consider any of these other things that I just talked about that are arguably of much greater importance. And that needs to change. We need to highlight, we need to shed light on that mechanism as we're going through this process. Dan showed this slide last night, which I love, and it says, in fact, measure what we want, not what we don't want. We count cars, we measure car delay, and that's what we design for. We have the choice to measure other things. There's a famous quote from a Danish designer named Jan Gehl, which is, if you plan for cities for cars and traffic, you get cars and traffic. If you plan cities for people and places, you get people and places. I've been doing this for about 20 years, and I've always thought that was a nice quote. And I have come to believe this is the most important quote, right? We are not going to analyze our way to a different future. We need vision, we need leadership, and we need to chart a course for the future that we want for our community. So I'll give an example. I had the really good fortune to attend a conference in Italy last month, where we were in a city called Rimini, which is on the Adriatic Sea. And they presented on many transformations of their street that I truly couldn't believe. And I was there in the after, so I've seen pictures of it before that just blew my mind. So this is one example of a bridge that goes into the city center that carried 13,000 vehicles per day. For reference, that's busier than any street in East Amherst. And, I'm sorry, East Aurora, sorry. May not be true in East Amherst. Busier than any street in East Aurora. And they decided to close that bridge to vehicle traffic and make it a ped and bike only bridge. And they did that because they knew we needed to prioritize getting people actively into our city center. And as a result of that, they saw a transformation of businesses and growth in those businesses right along that corridor. And I went to this place, hopefully this works. I went to this place. This is right where that photo was taken of those 13,000 vehicles per day. And this is how this place is today. The street was transformed, and now it's a place for people to dine and communicate with each other, or just jump in the street, or kids are biking, kids are running. It's a total change from that, and they didn't. You know, if I said let's close Main Street tomorrow, no one would be able to imagine this future, and yet they did something that drastic, and they got this as a result. Again, this profession is dominated by the engineering mindset, and their engineers don't have a way of understanding this through their way of making decisions. So again, we need leadership, we need vision, we need to take chances. So a couple of repeats from Dan's slides last night. Do you want to talk to these, or shall I keep going?
No, keep going, you're doing such a great time.
So, what does this mean? What do these types of things mean in small towns? And it's a lot of the same. The principles are the same. We can take advantage of the immense opportunity and rich foundation that you have here of community, of network, of architecture, of history.
Oh, do go back and I'll.
Please.
The bottom right is a painted intersection. Portland is now doing those. Neighborhoods can petition to do one, and it goes through a process. But I was just thinking Fisher Price, that wicked intersection up there, could be Fisher Price toys in the intersection, right?
We have all types of users here, just like they have in big cities, right? We want to design our streets for everyone, and that includes people who need to drive. Of course, we're not excluding that need, but we're making space for the other uses as well, and not giving away space just for driving. As we're accommodating the vehicle, how can we put people first? This is a critical shift in the way we think. That, again, my profession talks about accommodating bicycles and accommodating pedestrians, and they be designed for cars. That needs to flip on its head. Cars are the things that we should be accommodating while designing for other users. And it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. Some of these things that we show you will cost a lot of money and will take a large capital project over a long time. But a lot of this can be done really quickly. We're going to come back to this at the end of the presentation to talk about what we can do starting right now. Want to do this
No,
one?
I love target speed. Target speed is a term that wasn't even used 15 years ago in traffic engineering. A group of us, top engineers in America, got together looking at the things that were very wrong, very faulty, and we came up with this term. What it means is it's not your design speed, it's not your posted speed, it's the speed you want the traffic to go. So if you can take a look at, say, Main Street, and you feel the right target is 25 or even 20, then that's what you then design for. So let's use an example. And by the way, something very important to understand is when speed goes up 10 miles per hour, it's going up exponentially, not just arithmetically, it's jumping by a huge factor. So if you were hit at 20 miles an hour, 15% of you will die, but the other 85% might even walk away from it. Not many would. But if you got hit just 10 miles an hour higher speed, it's now 50-50 whether you'll be alive. That is huge. And most of your streets are posted at 30. Some people are doing more than 30. So it's almost a guarantee that they're going to take out a human being. Now at 40, and you certainly got some folks that are driving that fast, that's 85% chance of dying. So this is why we're now focused on target speed. And using it as an example, I'm told I'm the one who inspired this change. It's Lancaster, California. It used to be a 5-lane road. That was their main street, 5 lanes. And that changed to 1 lane in each direction. So we went from 40 to 50 miles an hour down to 10 miles an hour. But people now come downtown. They don't go through it. They come downtown. And they've added $750 million of new buildings. So it's just huge what a change in a street will allow for it. And they used some fairly unique things because they had all this space where these other 3 lanes were taking up that space. They even put in a lot of pianos, so people will go down and you'll hear music almost everywhere you go. So, this is the test. How fast do you think the average motorist would go on this road?
45.
That's the most common number I hear. And what if you did this? If you did this, on-street parking will further create that side friction. So people will slow down. What about that? Now the motorists are starting to get a sense of enclosure. They can break their speed because the objects are now close to them. What about now? And now the engineer, planner have done all they can do. It's now up to the development community to do the last peg. And I guarantee, once you've achieved this, your speeds are going to be down between 12 and 18 miles an hour. Every town I've gone to, where we've done these things, that's the speed people are driving. Mostly just looking for a parking space.
Okay, so that's sort of the foundational, the underlying theory behind what we believe and what we know is going to achieve the results that your community is looking for and improve safety, importantly. So what we want to talk about now is what we can do with our opportunity as the development review body to get the outcomes that we want. And just to give understanding of what the power you all have is, like development can take the form of the Tops Plaza over in the western part of the west side. Was it? West Village?
West End.
West End. Or it can take the historic development pattern that we have here on Main Street. And these are, of course, this is the result of different eras, right? Of different historic times in history. But the decisions were all made between the developer body and the village stakeholders, community members, and decision makers. And so we want to think about every time a development comes through as an opportunity to look more like the vision on the right. So a few things that to start with that we want to keep in mind. So the first is, and I know that parking is a really hot topic in this community. It's a hot topic in many communities, but I'll say every community. Again, that village I was in Italy, I saw photos of these central squares that today are beautiful plaza people sit out and relax and drink coffee. They were full of parking as recently as 10 and 20 years ago, until the community decided this space has more value for other uses. So, minimum parking requirements are a real problem. Minimum parking requirements have to create cost for development, which discourages development. They create extra asphalt, wider parking areas, and they put the burden of that cost onto the renters, onto the home buyers, and onto the people purchasing, the shoppers, customers. The more enlightened idea is to eliminate parking requirements, minimum parking requirements, or even put in a maximum parking requirement where you cannot build more than this much parking. And it feels counterintuitive, but recall, the way we design our streets influences how people get around. If we build a ton of free parking, that's what people are going to do. I talked a little bit before about peak period level of service. That's the number one metric that transportation professionals use to decide on how we're going to build our streets out. We're talking about shifting that away to more of how does the intersection work over the whole day. And then shifting from vehicle-focused design review, turning movement, swept paths, fire truck and access, parking, to how can we enhance connectivity and create more network in this place. So just as an example, the presence of parking is the number one determinant for how you all choose how to make every trip you make. For the most part, almost everywhere you go, you know there's going to be free, convenient parking and abundance of it to your destination. And so only the most enthusiastic cyclists or eager walkers are going to choose to walk or bike because it's a little bit slower and a little bit more inconvenient than drive, because we've made choice after choice after choice to make that the most simple way to get where you want to go. The good news is, with even the slightest bit of impediment to that choice, if we make parking a little bit expensive or we put it a little bit farther away, all of a sudden that trade-off for the bike trip or the walk trip becomes more in balance, and people choose to go there. Elm Street, people don't go to Elm Street because it has parking. They go to Elm Street because of the uses on Elm Street, and they want to get those bagels, and they are going to find a way to get those bagels, even if they can't park right in front of the shop. Again, this is another example of where we can't analyze our way to this solution, because everyone's going to tell you, I won't go there if I can't park out front. And the business is going to tell you, I'm going to close if people can't park out front. Because we don't know, and that's all we've learned throughout our lives. We've never tried another way. But experience after experience shows us that we can put those pressures on. And that's when you think about a big city. I come from Boston. I've never once in my life driven to work in Boston. I would never, ever think about paying $60 a day to park my car downtown, right? That's going to the other extreme, of course. But we have the opportunity in between to push that way. And communities have seen the success. So this is a tiny town in Michigan called Calumet, Michigan. It's on the Upper Peninsula on the Lake Superior. Population of under 700 people. They eliminated parking requirements and, in fact, put in parking maximums because the community, the decision makers in that community just realized parking wasn't serving their needs. It was creating extra asphalt. It was discouraging that by use. And they've seen an immense boom to their downtown, therefore, following that change. So this is the other idea that I talked about. So again, bear with me for a moment as I get into the traffic engineering weeds. But the performance measure that I keep talking about, level of service, that is the driver. Level of service is how much delay does the average driver experience during the peak 15 minutes of the 30th busiest hour of the year. So it was studied and decided this was the magic threshold that we're going to define pass and fail. And so if the average driver experiences more than 80 seconds of delay during the peak 15 minutes of the 30th busiest hour of the year, the traffic engineer will say, we can't do it, it won't work, it's failing. And we have to look at other options. So what that looks like on these charts is that what I'm showing on the right is the vehicle demand profile. How many vehicles are driving through the street every hour of the day from midnight to midnight. And you can see peaks during the rush hours as you'd expect. So the way we approach this problem as a profession is we design for a capacity at the top of that peak. But streets are fixed. When you put that capacity up there, it's there all day. So what I'm highlighting in red here is what we're referring to as unused capacity. It's the street that's been built and we paid for and it's out there that we're not using the rest of the time. And since traffic is an engineering profession, engineers are taught to be conservative. They're taught to make sure we never fail. And in most engineering professions, that's the right idea. The bridge should never fail. The building should never fail. In our streets, if they fail, that just means someone had 82 seconds of delay during the peak 15 minutes of the 30th busiest hour of the year. And in fact, it's actually worse than that. That unused capacity creates all of the problems that we have on our streets. Unused capacity makes the streets wider and emptier outside of the peak so that we encourage people to drive faster, which results in more crashes and more severe crashes. It makes our intersections wider and more challenging to get across. We heard a lot last night about how difficult it is for people to get across the street, and that's because our streets are so wide to accommodate this peak. These are also less efficient ways to design our streets, so people wait more, there's more delay over the whole course of the day, because we're really just narrowly focused on that one performance measure and not thinking about it across the day. And finally, as Dan's been telling us, these are our public spaces, and we don't have to use them just for accommodating that vehicle traffic. So it's a really important idea to move away from that peak analysis to what we call the 24-hour analysis, and consider how does the street work over the course of the day. So this is an example of how that might look. Again, one of those volume vehicle demand lines on the gray. So under the way we've always done things, we would only ever pick the 4-lane signal, but we're suggesting, what if we consider a 3-lane intersection in this hypothetical scenario? And maybe during the morning, some people will have to find another way to go or go another time, or maybe they'll decide to walk or bike because they can't just go through as freely and easily as before. And then we can have a more balanced use of that street over the course of the day. All right, last thing about the development review is to focus on this connectivity question. So we really need to understand the importance of building network, street network, for all users, and especially for walking and biking. So the image on the screen here shows an illustration of a typical, two types of development, right? And this actually, East Aurora has both of these. You've got the grid on the south side, the bottom side of the screen, and you've got a more residential, curvilinear, separated developed subdivision network on the north side. And so if you think about a series of trips, on the south side, those arrows all represent origin and destination of the trip, right? On the south side, there's lots of options for how to go. People can make a pretty direct route. Whereas on the north side, you can see that everyone has to make a lot longer trips. That means more driving. And we put all of the traffic demand on that one link of street. So we count the cars and say, oh man, there's a lot of cars on the street. We need to build a wider street. We need to build a bigger intersection. And that's because we're eliminating the chance people to skip that part of the street because we haven't built a network. And there's examples of that here. So I'm picking on this, I don't know about any history that might exist, but say you want to get from Nye Hill Road to the ball fields. I think they're called, Google tells me they're called McDonald's fields, is that right? Okay. No?
Never.
There's pickleball and baseball and the swimming pool.
Yeah.
What do we call it?
It's pool park.
Pool park?
Yeah.
Pool park. So today, if someone wanted to make that trip by walking, it would take them about 22 minutes to complete that trip. If we could build a connection through that very short window of connection, that would become a 6-minute walk. That changes from something you would do to something you probably wouldn't do, right? What if we take that a little bit further and go over to Glen Ridge? And we want to make that same trip from Glen Ridge. That walk, no one would ever do that, right? That's a 40+ minute walk. And you're not letting your kids go take that trip. If we get that connection through here, now we're talking about a 15-minute walk that's delightful through the woods or through a path and not on any busy streets. You have to worry about your kids getting there safely. And so, again, remember what I talked about before. Now, every single person that goes anywhere, absolutely anywhere from Glen Ridge, has to go onto Main Street. They have no choice. Every single trip is a car trip onto Main Street. And this is just one very specific example, but as we're building out more development, as things are coming along, we want to look for these opportunities we get to extract things from developers. They have to give and take a little bit. And building out network is one of the best ways that you can take advantage of that investment. And then finally, thinking about these development designs, I just picked on Fisher-Price, nothing personal. I just want to pick an intersection. So this is the way they designed this intersection because developers, transportation, traffic engineers don't think about these things. They just want to get traffic in and out. It's not their community. They just design it the way that their template tells them to design it. And so they put in a 65-foot crosswalk here, and then this isn't maybe their fault, but it's a 38-foot crosswalk here. What if instead we had the development review focus on how can we make this the most comfortable we can for people walking, so that anyone who might choose to walk was more invited to. And just these simple changes that make no difference to the cost of the development, no difference to the traffic processing, would reduce that crossing to 25 feet for people walking across their driveway and break that up into two 14-foot crossings. It takes the planning board like you all to ask these questions because, as I said, there's no one else asking these questions out there, and we need to be on our game every single time something comes through. And then lastly, a lot of you probably know this on the board, but some good principles for urban development are looking at maximum setbacks. How far can the building be allowed to be built from the sidewalk? And related to that is putting parking behind. You've seen new developments where they want to put the parking up front, and the developers' banks want them to put the parking in front. It's not that they're just evil. Well, the banks are evil. It's not that the developers are just trying to ruin your community. It's what gets them their approvals, right? And so you really have to be strong, and again, we need leadership to say, look, this is our community. We need it to be a walkable place. We don't want everyone to drive here all the time, and we need you to work with us to make these changes. How can we activate the ground floor? And the last one is a high entrance frequency. You want a lot of different things on a block so that lots of different people have different reasons to come there and then interact and have serendipity and then shop at another shop because they realize there's something else they need. This is how you build community. And as it turns out, this is exactly what Main Street is. You already have this, you have the perfect example of this right here in town. And so we want to accelerate this throughout everything else that comes through. Okay, that was a lot of talking, sorry about that. We'll wrap up with just some ideas for what you can do with this. And Dan and I have been talking a lot about what we call quick build or demonstration. And this is how you can transform a space extremely inexpensively and effectively. This is a couple of projects that we've worked on. One is in Orlando and the other is in New Hampshire, where within hours we set up a brand new bike facility that was used by, in the case of New Hampshire, dozens. In the case of Orlando, hundreds of people biked to school that next day. It happened to be bike to school day, but hundreds of people biked down the street with the day before. No one ever would ever bike on it. And you can do this quickly and efficiently, and you can measure it, and you can tell a story about it, and you can have people experience it. My favorite story from New Hampshire is we would do this, we would show these designs in the community meetings at the Wednesday night in the middle school cafeteria, and people would hold their arms and say, no, we're not doing this, we're not doing this. And then we said, all right, we'll try it on a Saturday morning. We put this out. The very same guy lived on the street. He walked out and looked at it. He said, oh, this is what you're talking about? This is fine. So it's a much better way of engaging people and helping people imagine a different future. It can also be really significant, but for low cost. This is an intersection in Somerville, Massachusetts, where I'm from. Actually, I'm from here, but where I live now, regrettably. Where this was, everything you see there is either paint or plastic posts. None of that was there before. It was a wide open, chaotic, circular intersection with an insane set of rules, and no one knew what to do. And today, it's a place that everyone, whether they're walking, biking, or driving, knows where to go, knows whose turn it is, and gets through safely. And it's the rare project in my career that's popular even in the internet comment section. So, quick build and demonstration projects are a way for the village itself to get going right away. You also have always new development opportunities coming to your door, right? And you can start asking these questions from the time they get here. Keep pushing them on how can we get a more walkable street or a more bikeable street, and how can we reduce the number of car trips to this development. The state and county are always going, every year they have a cycle of rebuilding streets or repaving streets. Every time they do that is an opportunity to reconsider the way the street is laid out. And the village has an opportunity to get in front of them. And then finally, there's lots of grants from the state and even the federal level. Even now, the federal level, you can pay for all the stuff we talked about with federal money. Don't believe everything you hear. Don't use the word bicycle though. I'm going against that. But there's also work, in New York, the tax increment financing is a tool that lots of communities are using. We know these things bring investment to our community, and we can bank on that and help build it out now so that we can enjoy it now and get more development to come in. So, with that, maybe we can take some questions. Or
Oh, yeah, I guess first from the planning
yeah.
board.
We're up again, huh?
Dan, I presume that you've focused primarily on Main Street?
Heavily on Main Street, but also really the whole village.
Okay.
We've looked at over 30 sites and have recommendations throughout the entire village. I'd say the big conclusion, though, is Main Street is your heart, your soul. It's where your best dollars are made. And how do we accent that? But we look at some of the other streets that take a little of the need for speed away. Not that we're going to allow motorists to drive fast, but we definitely don't want them to drive fast on Main Street.
Yes, one of my concerns is that the streets that parallel Main Street to provide for, east-west movement through the village, Oakwood, Girard, do they suffer an impact if we do some of these traffic calming on Main Street?
I don't think so, because we did this in a street in Florida. We had this one core street, and it was a beautiful street. I mean, it truly was as beautiful as your street. But then we took a road to the right, a road to the left. We made them one-way couplets, and nobody went over to them. They stayed on Main Street, but they drove the lower speed that we designed it for. And motorists are also interested in beauty. They may think they're going to make better time on a street that's different, or because we've changed it, they feel that we took something away from them, but they really want beauty. They really do. And they want to see people. And they certainly want to have that wonderful thing that other people are amazed by and jealous of.
That's not
You've already got.
That's not to say, though, I think we've talked about maybe
Yeah.
traffic calming treatment on those parallel streets as well.
Yeah.
To just regulate the speed, because already people are going too fast on both of the streets you've just named. And so what we've talked about ideas along the way to keep those from getting too high.
Our quest would be that nobody comes to your town to speak. That they just know that when you're in East Aurora, this is the behavior. I happen to live in a town, Port Townsend, Washington, where every time I come back home, I have to remind myself, I don't go more than 25. And on most streets, I don't even do 20. Yeah. And that's what you want, right? There's a town in California that I've done a fair amount of work in, Claremont, where their saying is, you'll know when you've left Claremont. Because they designed for people to be in love with their streets. Great question.
Dan, did you get out a chance to look out at 20A, what we call,
See the Amber Street?
no, going out towards Orchard Park, where we're going to have a new development.
Yes, we did.
It's a very large, 118 units, I think, is what it's
I
going
would say that it's proposed, it's not,
Well,
be careful.
the subdivision was
Proposed.
approved. It would take an act of Congress for it not to happen at this point in time. It will happen. Senior development is going to be focused on people that I'm thinking are going to want to do a lot of walking.
Yep.
But they're on the other side fundamentally of a highway. It's going to take a lot of work to figure out the best combination of traffic calming and geometric adjustments to join that with the village.
Right.
Because as it is right now, it's basically going to be a standalone subdivision over there, and very few people will walk.
Right.
The road is not signalized, it's not controlled in any way, shape, or manner. Very few people are going to want to walk across that road.
And we definitely took a good look at that, especially the Y junction.
Yeah.
And we think a roundabout is going to be a perfect tool for that location. It would just have so many advantages, but we also need to look at what the developer will contribute to making that journey a very pleasant one.
Yes, for the village, as well as the people, the pedestrians themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah, any suggestions that you might have, I mean, please include them in your recommendations and your suggestions. Yeah, because that is a huge expansion of our village, and at the moment, it's on the other side, as I say, of a highway.
Right.
We are definitely going to need as much thinking on how to link that up with the rest of the village as we can.
Exactly. Yeah. No, we're definitely going to put some love into that, I thought. and that-
Absolutely, tough love. That's what I want to hear. Okay.
I know on you're walking around, you've seen sidewalks that dead end without any common sense as to why they stopped. You may have also observed that there are sidewalks in disrepair. Our code says it's the adjacent property owner's responsibility to maintain those sidewalks. But we've seen recent trends. Denver is the latest one that I'm aware of, where they've taken over the responsibility for their sidewalks. Now, we in East Aurora, even though our code says the responsibility for maintenance and repair and cleanliness, snow removal, is the responsibility of the sidewalk owners adjacent to the sidewalk. But we also have equipment that snow plows the sidewalks. Do you have observations or experience for what you see could be an advantage to our village for that?
A number, and first of all, congratulations on plowing the snow, having the right equipment and doing that. The studies I've done are in Michigan, and one of the things that we calculated was to maintain the sidewalks is less than $1 per resident per year. And what a gift, right? So but to do that, you have to have bulk services. So one thing that these Michigan communities do is they put out a contract, say for 3 years, for 5 years, so someone could compete, rent the equipment, be local, and then they are awarded a 3-block area, let's say, where the sidewalks have been evaluated and they're ready for change. And so every homeowner has a very low rate that they end up paying. The homeowner still pays, but it's a very, very low price because the way the community put it out on a bid and got the contracts underway. So it's not one homeowner trying to go out and fix their sidewalk and paying $8,000, right? It's maybe their contribution. And I lived in a town that had an SID, Sidewalk Improvement District, and I believe all my sidewalks for the whole town were being taken care of, where I was paying $1.25 per quarter. So it's all done by good approach systems and strategies, as opposed to making the homeowner go out and cover something that they may not be able to cover, right? So.
A lot of people just add a little bit of, quick fill to bridge the gaps and, handle the uneven areas.
Well, I've seen that, but I think the important thing is once you get that displacement slabs and things like that, you really eventually have, and we in our town, we grind them down. So we watch over that. And until the grinder gets there, we paint the edges yellow so no one trips. Okay. Thanks.
Dan, one of the criticisms that often is made against some of the, the ideas that you show are, well, this is snow country, we have plows, we can't do some of these, speed bumps or the bump outs make it more complicated and, some of the temporary things you put up. Can you just talk for a bit about your experience in snow areas and how that is addressed in some of these designs?
Well, exactly. One thing that I recommend is that your snowplow operators take pride in their skill sets. So in Norway, for example, where they get a lot of snow, they have rodeos every year, and they give out big prizes to the top champions of snowplowing, right? Make snowplowing a craft that everybody's proud of, but do mark where your curb extensions or bulb outs are, so that you don't end up with damaged equipment and drivers.
Yes, if you're handing them a problem, then they're going to resent you. But if they're working alongside, we work with Boston all the time. Boston gets much less snow than we get here, of course, but still snows every winter, and the snowplow drivers have figured out, and they don't complain about it at all anymore.
Yeah, I mean, snow plowing is part of it, but then there's the salt, right? We put on a lot, and that, there's a lot of great pictures showing, the vegetated medians and roads and alongside roads, and I get it, but, after a winter of salt, they don't look so nice. So maybe just, some thoughts on that.
Yeah. I think the important thing is winter cities are very special places, and we adapt as workers, as residents, that because we've chosen to live in a winter city, we just take that as part of the factor, right? And by the way, East Grand Rapids, Michigan, I hope they still do it, they award the sidewalk plowing operation to a 16-year-old every year. It's almost a contest. You have to get great grades and this and that before you're allowed to get up at 4 in the morning to plow. But they love it. And I think that can be and should be something.
I think this should be Joe's job.
Yeah. I hope I answered your question.
No, that's good. I just, it's often a criticism, and it's something you got to plan for and address, but it's something that I've heard a lot.
How much are streetscape improvements, trees, street furniture, part of the solution?
They're a huge part. I wrote a book, and I think you can download it online, the 22 benefits of urban street trees. And it's amazing how much of the urban forest, properly built at edge of street, will contribute. For example, the paving life, this was proven in San Joaquin Valley, California, that you extend the life of your pavement by 20%. Now think about that. Just the trees alone saving the huge cost of having to repave your streets on a regular basis. And the reason for that, of course, is there's less expanding and contracting, and that wears out pavement. But the trees not only offer that wonderful touch of nature, they cool your streets, they cool your homes. It's very significant. And also, when it comes to planning how your buildings are laid out, I've recently worked in a community, kind of a strange name, it's called cul-de-sac, and it's not. It is 1,100 units, and it's in Tempe, Arizona, one of the hottest cities in America. And because of the way they place their buildings and that there's no pavement, there's nowhere for the cars to be inside of the village, the temperature is 16 degrees cooler than any adjacent space. It's really worth visiting to see, but I would live there in a heartbeat. No paving whatsoever.
Does our Main Street, Route 20A, State Route, with being a major commercial trucking thoroughfare, change any of the possibilities as mitigation factors to calm our traffic? Is there anything different that we would need to do?
Yes. For example, I understand some of your freight deliveries are center loaded in the street. Yeah. So you allow for that. Any main street's going to have a mix of uses that require the designer to design. So I live in a town where our main street, it's called Water Street, it's one of the best streets in the state. We have to offload our freight in the middle of our street. So what we've done to accommodate that factor is we put in what we are going to recommend for some of your streets, what's called an edge lane road. And what that is the street for the travel lane that we don't put in the center line. We don't want one. So we have a skip dash pattern on both sides of the street. Then the freight, when it does go and sits in the freight in the center, then motors just know they go into the skip dash line, which separates the parking and everything else. I think that's something we can look at and should look at for you, but we certainly are going to recommend that on some of your streets that sidewalks would just be too expensive to build. And you've got a number of those streets that an edge lane road would work, and it would work really well. And we'll show those in the finale. And boy, did they ever work well. It brings down the speed, it reduces the risk, the crashes come down. But yes, your main street, when we did Hamburg, we were obviously working from the fact that it's a major truck route. And so we took those lanes down to 10 feet. Many parts of your main street are already down to 10. And then we added the park assist lane, the red color. I believe you did yours after you saw what Hamburg had done, and the state said, well, it worked in Hamburg, surely it can work here. But everything gets influenced by other factors that got proven, and I'm convinced that, especially your West End, is going to need some extra love, people getting across the street. But we've got some really good solutions we think will be very effective and very powerful and help people navigate back and forth across the street.
But I see the Edge Lane Road, is that the term that you just
Yes.
used? I see that as a wonderful solution, potential solution to one particular small problem area we have getting to the athletic fields.
Yes.
We have to go down a small ravine and across a very narrow bridge. And everybody in town, wants to ride their bike to that field, but for that brief period, you are riding basically in traffic.
Yeah.
And turning that into a one-lane road with bike lanes on either side, or bike lane on one side if it's too narrow, to my mind, might be an absolutely brilliant solution. Are edge lane roads in any way, shape, or manner codified in this state? I mean, because I think that based upon the pictures we saw last night, they would be confusing to many motorists. If you basically, it turns it's a traffic going both ways in the same lane with areas on one or both sides of the road for pedestrians and bicyclists. That would be confusing for people. Are these accepted, allowed, permitted, codified in any way, shape, or manner within New York State or America?
Well, first of all, the Edge Lane Road, which is very common in Europe,
Okay.
which has brought down their crashes and so on, was tried as an experiment in our country, I think for 6 years, something like that. And the test period is over. The results are outstanding. But right now, the federal government won't grant new projects. Our town, Port Townsend, already has 7. We just say the data is out there. They're safer. They bring down the speeds, the kinetic factor. Everything is improved, and now people can walk and bike. So I'll use the strategy of Seattle. Seattle is doing something that's not in the manuals. They're putting in what are called half signals, which basically means only the primary road of view can see the signals. The side street traffic coming in can't see the signals. But the pedestrians, when they activate the system, all the motorists that need to see it, see it. It only costs 1/3 as much as what is approved, which is called the Hawk. Hybrid,
Never actuated crosswalk beacon.
yeah, but they're very expensive. And so Seattle's getting in 3 times as many half signals as any other town. And so they're saving more pedestrians and they're creating more mobility. So I would say the authenticating boards in our country are easily 20 years behind what the communities are proving to be a success. So you would want to make sure it's an adopted language in your own village. And I don't think New York State has adopted Edge Lane Road.
I'll have to check to be sure. If they've adopted it anywhere that it can flow down, I haven't heard of a place in New York doing it.
Okay.
And so you have a choice to go against the MUTCD, the Bible of these traffic control devices.
MUTCD?
MUTCD.
Right.
Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. Lots of cities do, like Dan's describing. The state's not going to, I'm sure of that. The state, we're not going to on their roads, but
Right.
there's not an MUTCD police that comes around and enforces it.
All right.
So,
Something to think about.
yeah.
Because we have some old streets, some very narrow streets. that were part of, you know, private estates at one point in time or other that had a couple houses built in it, and they ran a strip of asphalt down the middle of it, and that became the street, and that's what it is nowadays. So maybe this would be, I mean, not an area that really has problems, and it's the way that they're functioning now, but at least we could, you know, kind of look at it as you know, the way that they're operating.
Exactly. Yeah, it's basically just codifying what's already happening.
But I'd love to use it at that bridge.
Yeah, it's a good.
Post one-lane bridge on either side of it, I think everybody understands that. And stripe it off like that, and then suddenly you've got a place for kids to ride their bike and they're not in the road. That would be awesome. Yeah.
You see if the audience wants to participate?
I think that's exactly what we should do. All right, all right. I think that we should have the public comment period start. Luke in the audience here? Okay, well, who wants to run this session? I guess I can do it. So this gentleman here.
How you doing? I'm Lou.
You can step forward, or
You want me to come forward?
yeah, it's just to help everybody here.
See me better. I don't want anybody throwing tomatoes at me because I'm going to say something.
Well, you can grab the microphone and hand it to the next speaker if you'd like as well. Take the microphone out of the holder and just you can hand it to the next speaker as well. Okay. Right. Name and address, please.
Louis DeGuano. I'm at 37 North Willow Street. So I live right around the block from Barbill. My concern's more safety related, but I first want to address, I think the walkability in this town, like you said, is excellent. As you can see, if you've been in this neighborhood, you see people walking around very comfortably. I think bike lanes might be a problem because the streets are fairly narrow as they are, including on Main Street. You've got parking all up and down it, so it might be a problem trying to get that accomplished. The rural areas, I agree, you probably can do a lot better with walkability and maybe some bike lanes. But around the block from me is Barbill. And that whole area there is a nightmare. I drive up and down there all the time. And people do try to cross the street because they're looking for a path of least resistance. And usually it's because they're parked in the street and they want to go to the bar across the street or vice versa. Has anybody thought about it? And this is where I don't want to get hit with tomatoes, but how about we get rid of the parking just in that section? I'm talking from North Willow Street to say where the Rite Aid, the old Rite Aid parking entrance is. That's where the people are crossing. Eliminate parking there. There's usually about 20 cars from what I could see at any given time, just in that little area. I'm sure they can find parking either behind Barbill. The Rite Aid parking lot's kind of busy there, but I think you could squeeze a couple of cars in there. Or maybe purchase the property where the bank, I don't know what that was called. It's right on Gray Street, right across from Tops. It's been empty forever. It's a drive-up bank.
Bank of America.
I don't know who owns it, but that could be a really good parking lot there.
Henderson owns it.
I'll tell Ben to sell it to you. No, but then what you could do is put planters along that street right there to prevent people from trying to cross there. I mean, if you're a bar owner and you're against that, I would tell you to think about it. These people coming out, and I'm telling you, late at night, they're drinking, all right? And most of them are drunk, and they're coming across the street. I don't know. I would be more worried about them getting hit. Their safety is a big concern. So I'm wondering if that's been thought about at all.
There's nothing before us at this moment in
Nope.
time. This is just the start of a collaborative process that the new administration has undertaken. First step in the development of the revision of our comprehensive plan. So there's nothing actually that we're considering other than everything, if you will. So nothing specific is on the table, but so yes, I mean, certainly many people all the time are concerned about the safety of that area. I myself live just a little bit up Buffalo Road, and so I have to drive through there a lot. And the thing that strikes me is that you're looking into the oncoming headlights of cars at night, so you're semi-blinded as you're driving down there, and you've got people
Now-
crossing. You can't go too slowly.
Can I make a comment on that, though? You just brought up an excellent point. So on that block, you people know, there's two crosswalks. There's one right by, Pasquale's. You got that. And then the next one is all the way down by Favo Pizza, all right? I was thinking maybe you can put a crosswalk in the middle there. I don't know, I know.
So,
I'm trying to.
can I, Dan, you specifically talk about mid-block crossings. Why don't you talk about this?
Right, so we've been studying this area intently, and we watched the behavior of motorists and pedestrians. We're recommending 2 crossings in that sector, and we're actually recommending raised crosswalks and a median island. And so the pedestrian only has to cross 12, 14 feet at most to make it
I'm
across.
sorry, Median Island, right? In,
Median is in the center where the two-way left turn lane is. That now becomes a median island. And you still allow for appropriate turning movements, but now the pedestrian is your number one care and concern. And so we put in the islands and we put in raised crossings, and that helps control the speed of traffic through that whole
Gotcha.
area.
the last thing I'll say, the crosswalks at night are dangerous. It's hard to, even as a driver, if I'm coming down, it's hard to see if somebody's standing there trying to cross. So just something to point out. I don't know what you can do, but.
We'll make it to where the pedestrian is so obvious that your yield rate will be well over 90%.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Cecilia DeStefano. I live at 101 Roycroft Circle, so I live just outside of the village, but I can get down to the village through Ruskin. And my question is, I would really love to be able to walk or bike more easily to the grandparents' house, and they live right by Warren Park. But the issue is that intersection by Fisher Price is really dicey when you have toddlers who will like bolt out into traffic. And the crosswalk is there where we could get, from the north side over to like where the library is. But again, cars go like 35. And if they don't slow down, it's just very dicey to go through there with 3 kids. Do you have recommendations for crossing over Girard in that particular area there by where the parking lot is in Fisher Price? And
Okay, you want to closer comment?
I did draw a silly little sketch here of that. I think that's the example.
yes, that area.
So this is just one idea. There's lots of ways you can do it. What Dan talked about with the barbell area is really important philosophy. Crossing the street one lane at a time takes so much risk and so much mental capacity off the responsibility of the crosser. Let them focus on let me just see when there's a gap coming this direction. Now I get here, and then I'm safe again. I can look here and cross, wait for crossing in that direction. And with we want to make them wide enough. I do that as 10 feet wide, so you and your 3 kids can all be there safely together, have enough room to get through. There's other versions of this, and we're also thinking about that intersection just to the right, which is a little bit wild as well.
Yeah, that one's a little nuts too,
So we want
because they don't line up.
We're going to come up with a recommendation for this area together, think through how it can be reconstructed so that it's safer. And again, I say reconstructed. That sounds like a lot of money and a lot of time. A lot of this can be done with really cheap, inexpensive, quick build materials and achieve 95% of what a rebuild would do.
And then I had a second question, which was over by Warren Park. You'll notice that when drivers drive off of, I think it's Pine there, onto Warren Park, and then you can see like the toddler park over there. The tree canopy, there isn't really one for that stretch. But then once the tree canopy comes in, right before the stop sign, cars slow down because the visual field is narrowed. And while yes, we could plant trees there, what are the other things that we can do? Because we can't wait 20 years for a matured tree canopy to come in to help drivers slow down and notice there's a toddler park right there, and that you have now driven onto a more slower street.
Well, first of all, plant the biggest caliper trees you can afford, but start your own nursery. The village should be raising its own trees so that you can
That's a good idea.
you can have a 4-inch caliper tree that you can put the bulb in and so on. But even narrow caliper trees have some effect, and so does ground cover. If you can get in ground cover and even a narrow row of trees, it's going to start to bring the change you're looking for.
Excellent.
We have lots of other strategies for traffic calming without tree canopy that we are going to include throughout our recommendations. Things, what we call deflection. So vertical deflection, where you go up and over something, or horizontal deflection, where we make you go back and forth. Those things work almost as well as the visual.
Excellent.
We're giving you a complete toolbox.
Okay. Susie Jackson, and I live on Warren Drive. My questions are like implementation. So, like all these great ideas, and I'm looking at the Fisher-Price thing here. Does that take into account the trucks
Yes.
that go in? So that's wide enough, and it's not going to interfere with
Correct.
trucks?
No engineer ever wants to make a mistake. They sadly are over conservative, so they made the mistake, right?
Okay.
But everything that we will recommend will have truck templates applied to it for whatever vehicles make that turn.
Okay, and then piggybacking on that, going down Main Street, your different recommendations, like circles and stuff, it's a state road. Is there pushback from the state on doing that type of thing? And the other thing is also trucks, can they navigate the circles?
Yes, and in fact, one of the reasons we want to do the pop-up demonstrations is so that we can run your biggest equipment through them and show how they work. We love to do that. We get up in an aerial ladder truck and photograph the biggest vehicles going through and how long it takes and how it's done. And it's amazing how fast the average motorist will figure out, what's this? And well, I'm going to go around it and do it the right way.
Okay. And then my last question is, when you showed that cute town in Italy that had 13,000, I'm hearing feel like feedback, 13,000 trucks or vehicles, where'd they go? Like,
That's the question, and this is why I say transportation engineers are searching for an analysis result that they're never going to find. We don't understand fully what happens when we reduce demand, reduce capacity, but it's a combination of people make their trip at another time of day. You've probably done this. You thought, I'm not driving downtown now. I know it's going to be crazy now, and I can afford to go later, so I will. Some population will do that. Some will choose not to make the trip. Maybe it wasn't critical, or maybe they could go somewhere else. Some will change their mode. So if they were only driving a mile, and they were doing that because, as I said before, it was free to park and there was no encumbrance, then now there's a little bit of inconvenience. Okay, now that trip becomes a walk trip or a bike trip. And then the fourth is maybe they find another route. And Dan alluded to this earlier. We've done study after study to try to understand the diversion of these roads. When we narrow down roads, what is the diversion effect? And every study, I've never seen a study that shows any considerable rerouting onto those parallel streets. So they may be making rerouting. We don't know what all those four things I just listed, what proportion each are, because we don't have the data. And it's kind of shocking, right, to hear. We have so much analysis in our field, and we don't know the answer. But we do know every time it's tested, we see the same outcome. Every time people just try it, we see the same outcome. So in Italy, what happened? Probably a lot of people started biking. You know, if you've been to Europe, you think it's like just a different world. And that A, only happened recently, and B, it's because they made that the easiest thing to do. They made biking the easiest thing to do, or walking the easiest thing to do. We made driving the easiest thing to do, and that's what people do.
because I just see like, if you try to take traffic off Main Street, people, they're going to do Girard or Oakwood, you know, because they have to get to the other side. So then you're putting more traffic on those side streets.
Now, let me give you an example. We took a 5-lane road down to 2 lanes in San Diego. It was called La Jolla Boulevard. And it was running 23,000. Your highest number is 10,000. And so imagine 2.3 times higher. And so when we worked with the neighborhood, they had the same concern. People are going to spill into our neighborhood, go through. So we did a little traffic calming in the neighborhood and built it, and no traffic went into the neighborhood. And we handled all the traffic because our engineers figured out if you use a roundabout, it'll move more traffic in fewer lanes. And it's one of the most sought after copy templates that is around anywhere in America. but 23,000 is more than double your highest number. I wouldn't worry about the numbers. And again, most engineers are not ever going to make a mistake. That's not in their genetic code.
Okay, who's next?
Hi, thank you. My name is Sean McAtee. I live at 440 Girard, which is about 3 blocks to the west of that intersection. And I hope that there's been a traffic study or speed studies done of Girard. Girard's a wide street compared to lots in the village, and it's also a long street without any stop signs. And so there is a lot of traffic that comes through there. I'm a school teacher, so I get to be home in the summer, and I get to watch kids walk. There's a crosswalk near my porch that goes to the middle school, and it gets hit about once a week by cars. And it's amazing because I'll sit and watch them, and sometimes cars don't stop, they just drive through it. And other times I see people, they'll pull over and the driver gets out and they're shocked, like what happened? They have no conception what they've actually done. So it scares me a lot. It scares me for kids. It scares me. I bicycle on the street, and I think, boy, if they're not seeing this thing that's in the middle of the road, what else do drivers not see? So I hope there'll be attention focused on that as well.
Well, absolutely. Yeah.
The very first thing we said tonight, was the most important thing is speed. And the reason that happens is because people are going too fast for a residential street. And so everything we're going to recommend is aimed at how can we get those speeds down to 20, 25 miles per hour, where they will see you cross the street. They will see, they have, the difference between going 25 and 35, Dan showed the difference for physics, like the severity of the crash. It also has a huge impact on how much you can see and perceive and react to. And it's underappreciated, and that's why we're just, again and again, focused on getting those speeds down.
Yeah, and just to add, that seems like a perfect street. I appreciate all the traffic calming measures, but to draw a line of white paint 5 feet in to narrow those travel lanes, that seems like it's an incredibly inexpensive measure that would have a big impact.
Yep.
I can use this, but I can just use my mom voice. Luke's not here. His son needs stitches, so he had to run out. So he gives us apologies, or rather, he'd be here.
Introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Chelsea Root. I'm deputy mayor. Hi. And I also I take 3 kids to 3 separate camps, and I use Girard as my bloodline because I find that I get to where I need to go way quicker on a bike, even with 2 little ones, than I do in my car. And then I own a business on Elm Street, so I can find parking way easier with a bike than I can for my own business, because I'm not going to take up a parking spot for my consumers. That's just not something that I do. So Girard is my lifeline. So right now it is like a racetrack. It's brand new. It's beautiful. Is there anything you can do? You talk about quick fixes. Is there anything that we can do before paving starts next week that we can recommend to the DPW to do a bike lane, to do something, a quick fix, since so many of us want that narrow, to make that safer, to do something, I guess, an immediate resolution to that road so that we don't need to fill those lines and to make it a bicycle safe spot? Is there something that we can do quick? I'd like you just to think about that, since I think a lot of us use it as an alternative to Main Street. Yeah.
I would say number 1, we treat the intersections first. That's where most crashes occur. That's where we have the most real estate we can work with without impeding any private property. So we'll take a look at the intersections first and foremost. And it may be that some of the very first pop-up neighborhood mini circles can be on Girard. We'll see, and we'll work with the village to find out. Yep.
Yeah, I was going to say, Dan, this might be an interesting thing just for you to walk off and measure tomorrow if you haven't already, but obviously there's a lot of focus on Girard because it's very wide. It was made for trucks servicing Fisher-Price. My guess is if you measured curb to curb, it would probably be similar width as Linden curb to curb, but Linden has the grass median, which slows everyone down and makes it probably one of the nicest streets in the village. So I don't know, in your walking around, if you've seen Linden, if you've looked at it. If not, maybe you can add it to your list to look at tomorrow, because I think it's the opposite of Girard, right? It's a wide road, but it has the median, and it meanders. It's winding, it's not straight.
Well, we'll
So-
definitely take a look at it.
Yeah.
And we're actually recommending that in a town in Monterey County, California, where they've got streets 80 feet across on local streets. So we're saying, look, the cheapest would be for us to start in the center and take out 30 feet. And then, with it being a grassy area, that can now become a nice trail. And plant trees on it and make it a linear park. So we'll look at Linden.
And as it happens, we did measure Girard today, so it's 36 feet from curb to curb, which is, if it had parking on both sides well used, that would be realistic, but it doesn't. There's very little parking, at least the parts we saw today. And so you've got effectively 18-foot wide travel lane, which is...
We've got a tradition in the village of not striping our village streets any more than they need to.
Yeah,
I think
it
one of
makes
the
sense.
things that you've been suggesting is that striping can be done to calm people down. And you showed a picture last night of just not striping the center line, but simply striping off a parking or a pedestrian bicycle area on the side. So that would be might be the perfect use for that right there.
Cool.
Seth Kaiser, and I just live practically across the street on Oakwood here. Speaking of the problems with Barbill before and making things safer by narrowing streets, I kind of have been thinking about this, and you showed some places where they showed islands in the middle of a road. Well, as far as Main Street goes in that area, why couldn't you have something like that? The bike lane actually serves no purpose on Main Street. They're a waste, total waste. Put the bike lanes instead on Oakwood and Fillmore, or Oakwood and Girard, and have food trucks in that area in the middle of the road where they can be parked, where there isn't, get rid of traffic there. Allow the food trucks in there, change the zoning, and have little tables and seats and let people eat there. On Main Street, by Barbill. In the middle of the road, yeah. You're making two totally separate roads now, pretty much.
I don't think that's feasible.
I don't know, maybe it's not. Maybe it's totally unrealistic, but I don't know. It's just something I thought maybe you might want to possibly consider.
All ideas are welcome.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you. I'm Rebecca Whiteman. I live at 70 Shearer. And as some of you know, Shearer is a 1 block long street, goes north-south from Main Street to Parkdale. And some of these ideas are my boyfriend's. He has an issue with a lot of traffic coming south on Maple, cutting over Parkdale and going down Shearer, so they miss one light. And when they come from Parkdale onto Shearer, they tend to go very fast. There's families on both sides, on both corners of that street, and there's, 7 little kids. So these are some ideas he had. So make Shearer one-way north and put a couple of speed bumps on Shearer. Another idea was a stop on Parkdale at Shearer, and a couple more speed bumps on Shearer. And another idea was limiting the speed to 20 miles per hour on Shearer. What do you think of those ideas?
Well, a couple of thoughts. First of all, our recommendation is for your residential street to only be 20. And, but to design it so that people don't want to go more than 20. In general, we're going to recommend against vertical change, certainly speed humps, speed bumps, because they do more harm than good. Typically, you solve the problem right where the speed hump is, but people make up the time and the distance further down the road, so you're just moving the problem around. We do believe in one vertical device, and that is raised crossings. And we can do those where they're quiet, where they're very friendly, and where they help. And certainly on your longest blocks, we will recommend that you do it like a raised crossing where it makes sense. And that's certainly true in the west of Main Street, where we're recommending two.
Thank you. Anybody
What
else?
kind of vertical are those? You say raised crossing.
When the raised, you have a taper, 1 in 20 grade change, up, and then flat for the whole crosswalk, and then the same taper going down.
It's up about 6 inches to match the sidewalk height.
How does plowing, how does that affect plowing?
A 1 in 20 grade is not a problem. Down in Florida, they'll use a 1 in 12 grade, and that would be a problem for your plows. But that's why we're recommending 1 in 20.
So does the plow have to stop, pick up or anything?
No, it's,
You don't go over
it's just,
down there?
they know when it's coming, they push up.
It keeps its own load and it keeps going.
So that can, the raised combined with the striping in different color is enough. The visual and the impact of the car slows down the traffic.
Well, exactly. I just built a new street in our town, it's 2.1 miles, and we used 5 raised crossings, and nobody goes more than 25. And it's very quiet and it's very friendly. It's so easy to cross the street.
Ma'am?
Hi, Shelley Dune. I'm at 170 Mill Road. We're the black house right near the intersection of Mill and 20A. I was wondering if I heard somebody talk about... Oh, closer. I was wondering if I heard somebody mention, I'm in one of the houses where the sidewalk ends. Are we doing something about those? Like, the sidewalk ends right at our property line. And so when there's snow, I have to shovel down to the road, which is fine. But I was just thinking, like, if there was an actual sidewalk going down to it, that would be amazing. The other thing is just how incredibly narrow Mill Road is around the water treatment plant. It's kind of outside of the village, so I don't know if there's anything we can do about that. But we have so many pedestrians there. It's very scary because people go fast and there's a lot of people. So.
A couple new developments down there as well. All
Exactly,
the old
exactly.
houses down there, yeah, it would be spectacular to extend sidewalks into the village.
Yeah.
Into the shopping area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the people who are walking, particularly from the apartments, they're like the people who are the least likely to have cars. So I kind of feel like we should be taking care of them like first. So anyway, that's about that.
That's just a village priority question more than
Yeah.
anything else. Anybody else? Yeah.
He's on?
It's on.
Thank you. Jeanette de Jong from Warren Drive. I have 3 questions. One was, I'm happy I heard someone talk about the bike lane in Main Street, and if you get me as a Dutch mad, it's like we don't have a bike lane in Main Street. So my question is, if you create bike lanes, how will the public recognize them? Because bikers are not recognized as real traffic here. Then when I heard about that plan for the soccer fields and kids can bike, is that a safe thing for in the dark? How will that be visual appealing? Will people recognize that? Because that should be probably one of the safety things that needs to be. And my last one, I think I just forgot it. That happens all the time. But I hope that whatever you plan, that finally we can get a hold of bike paths wherever possible, because as far as I know, we don't have any. Thank you.
The first question you asked, are the bike lanes on Main Street? Those are not bike lanes.
No.
They're what we call park assist lanes. They're only 3 feet wide. To be a bike lane, you need at least 6 feet. And you just don't have the real estate to apply to that. And so that's why we're trying to get the speeds down to 20, which is approximating bicycle speed. So that's where the safety comes in. Having bike facilities is going to require, because your streets are just a width that requires you to give up something, you have a lot of streets where people are not parking, but you've got a parking lane devoted. So if that neighborhood says it'd be very important for us to have a bike lane, then we have all the room we need to do not only a bike lane, but a buffer, so that you've got full separation. And in some cases, we can even do a separate lane by just demarcation and some materials. Now the cyclist is fully separated. What was the third question?
I think I forgot. I'm still thinking.
It was the bike lane at night on Knox.
Not the visibility, because
Well,
that is safety.
right, we really love to have the right level of lighting. Now we have so many types of lighting that don't burn a lot of electricity. And we'd recommend that, and it can be night sky compliant and still be very effective. So there are many choices in lighting for trails.
I have an idea for that. To the soccer fields, Randy?
Yes. Yeah, take the microphone, please.
So instead of making it one lane, why not just build with wood on either side or one side of the road, just a dedicated walkway?
Lots of options.
Yeah.
Lots of options. And again, nothing is on the table at this moment in time except all ideas are welcome.
Yeah, I have a question. I'm stretching, but I have a question too. Hi, Michelle Parrish, 854 Lawrence Avenue. Okay, my question is, I love a lot of these ideas. It's really exciting. But so how does this start? Do you start putting up like fake circles and test us? Does the village do this? I mean, where does this start? I don't quite get where we start with this.
We have done the pop-up demonstrations in quite a number of communities. The community needs to be part of it. We need volunteers, but we need the materials like traffic cones, bunting or other materials. And so that would be a future project that you would choose which test projects you want, which locations, and like at Fisher Price, wherever you choose. Then we design for it, and we come out and we basically measure everything out, put in the cones and all the materials that it would take to run that test. And I'll give you an example. In the most dangerous city in America right now, inside what's called the Iron Triangle, where more kids die because of abuse and gangs than anywhere else, statistically.
California.
The children said, we've had enough. We want our own park. And they had this amazing woman that gave up a really great job to now work full-time for the kids. They pay the kids. And the kids designed their park. It was built with federal monies. But the kids now had a park and a place to go to after school and where they can work and get paid. Then they said, well, now we want our own road to be a yellow brick road. So we worked with them on the design of that. But we said we needed a weekend pop-up demonstration. And so we put all of that together. You can watch the video. I'll make sure we send the link because it's the most beautiful thing to watch. And we laid out the streets for the kids. And the kids came up with flyers And so with an adult with them, they would hand flyers to the motorists as the motorists were brought to a stop. And the newspaper covered it. One of the top senators in America came out for it. And they raised, as a result of that, got so much support in the neighborhood that they raised $12 million to now build the Yellow Brick Road. So we always love the pop-up demonstrations first.
Wow.
Dan, but I think Ms. Parrish's question in large scale also relates to what is the format of your deliverables to this village going
Oh,
to
I'm
be?
sorry. Yeah. Well, our presentation is going to be in printed form. It's very similar to what you'll see tomorrow night. It'll be more polished, it'll have more details.
Well,
but
there will be specific recommendations.
Very specific.
Okay.
Yep.
Excellent.
Based on what we've heard and what we say this tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, and so that will, I'm, is anybody from the village board in the audience at this moment? Okay. Great, so we'll make that available to, on the village website?
Yeah, I'm talking about that.
Okay, all right. Yep. Talk to your village board about getting a hold of the recommendations and what the result of this, these meetings and hearings and inspections have been. I, for one, am extremely excited about this. I think this is going to be awesome. Great.
I have one other question about that too, sorry. So like Main Street is a state road, correct?
Yes.
So village would lead on this. How hard is it to deal with the state though when you want to do, these are significant changes. Lots of money. We all know that's going to be a lot of money, but how hard is it to work with New York State Department of Transportation as far as these ideas?
I mean, it seems like they've worked with other communities in New York that have also those similar streets in terms of county or state.
I think the state generally feels like they're happy for the village to do within reason what it wants, but they're not going to pay for it. They're going to want you to pay for it. So that's good news and bad news, right? I don't think they're going to stand in your way for most proven known safety countermeasures, but they're also not spending their money here.
I think also I would say that, Dan has a long history of credibility in working with New York State DOTs, then Lancaster, Hamburg, East Aurora, Orchard Park, other communities as well. So I think there's a willingness to listen to some of these ideas from DOT. Nothing will happen quickly, unfortunately, and money will obviously be involved. But I think we can prioritize some key specific things. Safety and ADA access is the easiest way to get DOT to do anything. Okay, so if we can look at these opportunities as pedestrian safety, multimodal car, bike, pedestrian safety, and ADA access, you get a lot more attention than you do of just saying, hey, we want to slow down your traffic. So I think, their mandate is that they can't really limit who accesses a state highway. Trucks have to access it, cars, bikes, everyone has the right to access a state highway. So what we have to do is present these opportunities in a way that they're not violating that commitment, but in a way that they can implement something. So I think, it'll be prioritization, and I think if the community comes around 3 or 4 key items, I think the mid-block crossing by Barbell is a no-brainer. I think they all understand that. I think, the intersection at Olean Road and Pine and Main Street has been a problem. There's been accidents there. I think the Elm Riley crossing is something that'll get their attention. So I think, they'll listen if the right argument can be made. When the Main Street was redesigned back in 2007 to 9 or 10, we did actually narrow Main Street. We put in curb extensions, bump outs, whatever you want to call them. We narrowed Main Street in front of the middle school, things that they wouldn't normally have done, but they did make exceptions because they understand it's what the community wanted. So I think if the community wants it, and we can tie it to safety, ADA access, and the reasonable requests, I think they would certainly listen.
What are you exactly doing tomorrow night? It's like from 5:30 to 8, right? It's a long.
Yeah, so Dan, why don't you talk about what you're doing tomorrow, and then we can wrap up and have discussions afterwards.
Our finale, all the work that we've been doing, I started last Friday, and Connor came in yesterday, and we've been making observations, we've been running workshops, we're gonna do a walking audit tomorrow, which we invite you to come and join. And then the closing, we will present our highest and best recommendations, and look for your feedback around work tables. And then that will help inform our final presentation in printed format. So please come. And if you can't come, talk others in. Yes, this will be where it's held. And so, yes. Does that help answer?
For the walking tour, do you have a route plan if someone's running late?
Yes. We're leaving here, this building. We'll go up to Elm, and then Elm to Main. We'll go 2 or 3 blocks, possibly all the way to Olean, and then come back down. So it's not going to be a long walk. It's just going to be packed with knowledge and information that we're going to share. Is that all?
And look for the crowds, I'm thinking is going to be the easy way to find them.
Yeah. And we'll be very bright.
Oh, I think we can break up into individual meetings. I'm sure Dan would be happy to answer any questions afterwards, but at this moment in time, I think we're going to close the planning commission meeting. Unless there's something more that we have to discuss up here.
Nope.
And we can break up into individual sessions.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Moved by member Morris, seconded by member Castle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. It is.
Oh, my
Damn
God.
right it is. What, is it Bill? Yeah.